You gave them too much power. That person, the one whose text you're still rereading, the one whose opinion you're trying to decode, the one whose silence you're making mean something about you. You gave them too much power, not by loving them, not by desiring them, but by allowing them behavior, their words, their absence, to become the confirmation or denial of your own reality. You placed them on a pedestal, and then you stood beneath it, waiting. And in that posture, that waiting, that watching for them to prove your worth, you made them the god of your reality. I am speaking directly to you now. If you have ever found yourself refreshing a conversation, checking their social media, wondering if today will be the day they finally see you, reach out, change, come back, then you have experienced this. You have given your power away. You have made their state your state, their mood your mood, their behavior your evidence, and in doing so you have forgotten the single most liberating and demanding truth Neville Goddard ever taught. You are the operant power, not them, not circumstances, not the past. You. Consciousness is the only reality. And if consciousness is the only reality, and if consciousness is yours, then so is everything else. This episode is about reclaiming that power, not through force, not through detachment that is really just disguised fear, but through understanding, through returning to yourself as the center, through ceasing to make another human being, no matter how dearly loved, the arbiter of your inner state. They are not your God. You are not their effect. And once you truly understand that, everything changes. Welcome. If this is your first time here, this channel is dedicated to the teachings of Neville Goddard, a mystic who spent decades showing anyone willing to listen that imagination is God, that consciousness is the only reality, and that you are far more powerful than you have ever been taught to believe. Each episode here is an invitation to live from that truth. Today we are focusing on one of the most common and most painful mistakes made by those desiring a specific person, a partner, a relationship restored or realized. It is the mistake of letting that person's behavior control your state, of giving them authority over your inner world, of making them the condition for your joy, your peace, or your certainty. We will look at why this happens, what it does to your manifestation, and most importantly, how to reclaim yourself as the only operant power in your world. This is not theory. This is how you stop suffering and start creating. Stay with me. Let us begin by naming exactly what happens when you make someone else the god of your reality. It is subtle. It begins innocently. You desire someone. You imagine a life with them. You feel the naturalness of being loved by them, chosen by them. So far, so good. Desire itself is not the problem. Neville said again and again that desire is the hand of God reaching toward form. It is the stirring of the I am within you, seeking expression. To want another person, to want love, intimacy, partnership. There is nothing weak or wrong in that. But then something shifts. You look at them, at their behavior, at their words, at their silence, and you make a decision. You decide that their current state is the truth. You decide that their rejection, their indifference, their absence is the evidence. And in that moment, you give your power away. This is what I mean by making them the god of your reality. You are now looking to them for confirmation. You are waiting for them to change so that you can feel differently. You are allowing their mood, their text, their choice to determine whether you are loved, whether you are chosen, whether you are worthy. You have reversed the order of creation. Instead of assuming the state of being loved and letting that assumption harden into fact, you are assuming the state of being powerless and waiting for external proof to rescue you. And it will not come. Not because they do not love you, not because you are unworthy, but because you are creating from the wrong state. You are giving them the pen, and they are not the author. Neville told a story once about a woman who came to him in tears. She loved a man who seemed distant, who was involved with someone else, who showed no sign of returning her affection. She asked Neville what to do, and he told her something simple and devastating. He said, "Stop looking at him. Stop reacting to him. Stop letting his behavior be your truth. Go inward. Assume you are loved. Assume you are chosen. Live from the end. Do not make him your God." She did. She stopped waiting. She stopped waiting. She entered the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and in a matter of weeks, circumstances shifted entirely. He reached out. He ended the other involvement. He pursued her. But here is the key. It was not because she manipulated him. It was because she stopped making him the condition for her own consciousness. She became the operant power again. She stopped waiting for the outer world to change, and she changed her inner world. And the outer, as it always must, conformed. I tell you, this is the most liberating thing you will ever realize. That person whose silence is torturing you, whose distance is breaking your heart, whose behavior you are analyzing and reanalyzing, they are not doing anything to you. They are simply reflecting the state you are in. The world is yourself pushed out. That phrase is not poetic decoration. It is the mechanics of reality. If you are in the state of being unloved, ignored, rejected, then no matter how much you want them, you will continue to see evidence of that state. Not because the universe is cruel, not because they do not care, but because consciousness is the only reality. You are always seeing your own face in the mirror of the world. Always. So when you make them the god of your reality, what you are actually doing is worshipping your own fear. You are bowing to the belief that something outside of you has power over you. And that belief, that state, is what you are manifesting. You are not manifesting them. You are manifesting your relationship to yourself. And if that relationship is one of dependency, of waiting, of reacting, then that is what you will continue to experience. They will remain distant, or inconsistent, or unavailable, not because that is who they are, but because that is the state you are embodying. You are not seeing them as they are. You are seeing your own assumptions reflected back to you. Now let me be very clear. This does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you harden your heart or pretend not to want them. That is not detachment. That is denial. And denial is still a reaction. It is still making them the center. True power, true operancy is not about them at all. It is about you. It is about returning to the I am R. It is about realizing that your consciousness is the only thing that has ever created anything in your experience. And that no matter how convincingly the outer world argues otherwise, it is still true. Right now, today, with this person, you are the operant power, not because you are special, but because you are special, but because you are special, but because you are conscious, and consciousness is God. Neville said the day you fully realize that no one can hurt you, no one can help you, no one can stop you, that is the day you are fit, and that is the day things begin to change, because you stop looking for signs, you stop waiting for permission, you stop letting their behavior dictate your inner state, you assume what you want to be true, you live in that assumption, and you allow the world, including them, to catch up. That is the law. That is the promise. And it has never once failed anyone who truly applied it. But why do we do this? Why is it so easy to fall into the trap of making another person the measure of our reality? Because we have been conditioned, from childhood onward, to believe that love comes from outside, that approval comes from outside, that our worth is determined by how others see us, treat us, respond to us. We are taught to look to the world for validation. And so when we want someone, we look to them. We watch their face. We listen to their words. We wait for them to tell us, through their behavior, that we are enough, that we are wanted, that we are loved. And when they do not give us that confirmation, we spiral. We assume we are not enough. We try harder. We chase. We plead. We analyze. We perform. And all of this, every single bit of it, is rooted in the belief that they have the power, that their opinion is the truth, that their behavior is the evidence. But here is what Neville understood, what he tried to communicate in lecture after lecture, what he lived and proved and taught until his final breath. There is no outer cause, none. Everything you experience is the result of the state you are occupying. If you are in the state of being loved, you will experience being loved. If you are in the state of being rejected, you will experience being rejected. It does not matter what they said yesterday. It does not matter what they are doing today. It does not matter what they are doing today. It matters what you are assuming. It matters where your consciousness is dwelling. That is the only cause, the only power, the only creator. So when you find yourself hurt by their words, crushed by their silence, desperate for their attention, stop. Do not react to the outer. Go inward. Ask yourself, what state am I in right now? Am I in the state of being loved, or am I in the state of being chosen? Or am I in the state of hoping to be chosen? Or am I in the state of hoping to be chosen? Because those are not the same. One is creation, the other is begging. And you cannot beg your way into a state. You must assume it. You must enter it. You must enter it. You must become it. And then, only then, will the outer reflect it. This brings us to the heart of the matter. The reason you must stop making them the God of your reality is not just so you can feel better, though you will. It is not just so you can manifest them, though you can. It is because making anyone your God is a denial of who you are. You are not a creature at the mercy of the world. You are not a beggar waiting for scraps of affection. You are the I am. You are consciousness itself, awake and aware, creating every single thing you experience through the state you occupy. And when you forget that, when you make another person the measure of your worth or the condition of your worthy, you are in the state of sleep. You are hypnotized by appearances. You are believing the dream is the dreamer. And it is not. Neville told us over and over that the whole vast world is no more than man's imagination pushed out, that everything you see, everyone you meet, every reaction you get is you, not metaphorically, literally. They are showing you your own consciousness. They are the mirror. And if you do not like what you see in the mirror, you do not beg the mirror to change. You change what you are showing it. You change the state you are in. You go inward to imagination and you assume the state of the wish fulfilled. You feel it. You live in it. You make it your dwelling place. And then the mirror has no choice but to reflect it back. I want you to imagine for a moment that you stopped checking, stopped wondering what they are thinking, stopped analyzing their last message or lack thereof, stopped looking at their social media, stopped analyzing their last message or lack thereof, stopped looking at their social media, stopped trying to read the signs. Imagine you just stopped, not because you stopped caring, but because you remembered that none of it matters, that none of it is the cause, that the only thing that has ever mattered, the only thing that has ever created, is the state you are in. And imagine that instead of looking outward, you turned inward. You closed your eyes. You imagined the end. You imagined that instead of looking outward, you imagined their arms around you, their voice saying the words you longed to hear. You felt it, not as a future wish, but as a present fact. You dwelled there. You returned to that feeling again and again. You made it your inner reality. What do you think would happen? I will tell you what would happen. The outer would shift. It has to. It always does. Not because you are manipulating anyone, not because you are forcing anything, but because the outer is not separate from the inner. The outer is the inner made visible. Consciousness is the only reality. And when you change your consciousness, when you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, the world rearranges itself to match, every single time. No exceptions. The only variable is whether you can remain faithful to the state long enough for it to harden into fact. That is all. That is the entire teaching. And it is the most demanding and the most liberating thing you will ever hear. Now let us go deeper into what it actually means to be the operant power. This phrase, the operant power, comes directly from Neville. He used it to describe the one who is operating, the one who is causing. In your world, in your experience, there is only one operant power. You, not God in the sky, not fate, not the universe, not that person. You, your consciousness, your assumptions, your inner state. That is what is operating. That is what is creating. Everything else is effect. That is what is creating. Everything else is effect. And when you truly understand this, when you stop giving the power to anything or anyone outside of you, you become free, not free to control others, free to create your experience, free to assume what you want and watch it unfold. But this is where it gets uncomfortable, because if you are the operant power, then you are responsible, not guilty, not to blame, but responsible, not guilty, not to blame, which means that if you are experiencing being ignored, being rejected, being left, it is because you are in the state of being ignored, rejected, left. It is not their fault. It is not bad luck. It is not bad luck. It is not karma or past lives or unhealed wounds, though those stories might be how the state expresses itself. It is your state, your conscience, your assumption, and the moment you stop resisting that truth, the moment you stop resisting that truth, The moment you stop listening to blame, you reclaim your power, because if you caused it, you can change it. If you are the operant power, you can operate differently. This is what Neville meant when he said, "Do not waste one moment in regret." If you do not like what you are experiencing, change your state. Assume something different. Live in that assumption, and let the old fade away. You are not bound by the past. You are not bound by their words or their choices or their current feelings. You are only ever bound by your own consciousness. And consciousness can change in an instant, right now. As you hear these words, you can decide to assume you are loved. You can decide to occupy the state of being chosen. You can decide to live from the end. And the moment you do, truly do, everything begins to shift. I have seen this happen countless times. A woman who spent months in agony over a man who left her, who seemed to have moved on, who ignored her messages and her presence. She tried everything. She begged. She reasoned. She changed her appearance, her behavior, her life, all in the hope that he would notice, that he would come back. And nothing worked. Because she was still in the state of being left. She was still making him the operant power. She was still waiting for him to change so she could feel differently. Then she found Neville. She learned the law, and she stopped. She stopped looking at him. She went inward. She imagined every night before sleep that he was with her, that he was holding her, that he was saying he never stopped loving her. She felt it. She lived in it. She made it real in her imagination. And within 2 weeks he reached out. Within a month he told her he had made a mistake. Within 2 months they were together again, but his mistake. Within 2 months they were together again. But here is what she told me. She said, "I realized it was never about him. It was about me. The moment I stopped making him the god of my reality, the moment I became the operant power again, everything changed." That is the teaching. That is the law. That is the promise. Let me give you another example, one Neville himself shared. A man loved a woman who did not seem to notice him. They worked together, and she was polite but distant. He wanted her. He imagined being with her. But every day when he saw her, when she walked past him without more than a nod, he felt the lack. He felt the rejection. He made her behavior the truth. And so his desire remained unfulfilled. Then he heard Neville speak. He heard the teaching that the world is yourself pushed out. And he understood. He stopped reacting to her coldness. He stopped making her indifference the truth. He went home each night, and he imagined, in the state akin to sleep, that she loved him, that she was affectionate, warm, eager to be with him. He felt her hand in his. He heard her laugh. He made it real in his imagination. And he did this night after night, not to manipulate her, but to change his state, to assume what he wanted to be true. And in time everything shifted. She began to smile at him, to talk to him, to seek him out. And eventually she confessed she had been attracted to him all along, but had been afraid, unsure, caught in her own state. The outer world had simply mirrored his inner state back to him. When he changed inwardly, the outer had no choice but to follow. Do you see? It is always the state. Always. And the tragedy, the absolute heartbreak, is that most people never realize this. They go through life reacting, waiting, courting, praying for someone else to change so they can finally feel the way they want to feel. And it never works. It cannot work, because the outer does not create the inner. The inner creates the outer. Consciousness is cause. The world is effect. And no amount of effort in the outer will change that. This is why detachment, as it is often taught, does not work either. Does not. People think, I will just stop caring. I will just move on. I will just focus on myself. And that might sound empowering, but often it is just another form of reaction. It is still about them. You are still letting their behavior dictate your inner state. You are just switching from desperation to indifference, which is still a response. True power is not indifference. It is assumption. It is deciding what you want to be true and living in that truth, regardless of what the outer world is currently showing you. It is not about them at all. It is about you and your relationship to your own consciousness. Neville was very clear about this. He said, you do not manifest things. You manifest states. And whatever state you are in, that is what you will experience. So if you want to be loved by a specific person, you do not try to manifest them. You assume the state of being loved by them. You live in that state. You think from it, not about it. You do not imagine them loving you as something that will happen in the future. You imagine it as something that is happening now, in your inner world, which is the only world that matters. And when you do that, when you truly inhabit that state, the outer world conforms. It has to. There is no other possibility. So the question is not, how do I get them to change? The question is, how do I change my state? How do I stop making them the god of my reality and reclaim myself as the operant power? And the answer is simple, though not always easy. You turn inward. You go to imagination. You assume the wish fulfilled, and you remain faithful to that assumption, no matter what the outer world seems to show you in the meantime. That is the practice. That is the law. That is the only way. Let us now talk about how to do this, practically, specifically, because it is one thing to understand the principle. It is another to apply it. An application is everything. Neville did not teach theory. He taught a method, a technique, a way of using your imagination to create. And if you apply it, it works. If you do not, it does not. It is that simple. The method Neville taught most often is called the state akin to sleep. He called it SATs, though he rarely used that acronym himself. The idea is that acronym himself. The idea is this: as you are falling asleep at night, you are in a state where the conscious mind, the reasoning mind, the doubting mind begins to relax. The barrier between the conscious and the subconscious thins. And in that state, whatever you imagine, whatever you feel, impresses itself deeply into your subconscious mind. And the subconscious, Neville taught, is the creator. It is the womb of creation. It does not argue. It does not reason. It simply accepts what is impressed upon it and brings it forth into the outer world. So, if you can impress upon it the feeling of the wish fulfilled, if you can fall asleep in the state of being loved, being chosen, being with that person, you will create it. Not someday, now, in consciousness. And the outer, in time, will reflect it. Here is how you do it. Tonight when you go to bed, do not replay the day. Do not think about what they said or did not say. Do not plan. Do not play. Do not fleek. Do not fade. Do not fade. Instead, construct a simple scene, a scene that implies the wish fulfilled. Not the wish itself, but the implication of it. For example, if you want to be in a relationship with someone, do not imagine them saying yes to a date. That is still future. That is still outside of you. Instead, imagine something that would only be true if you were already together. Imagine lying in bed with them beside you. Feel their warmth. Hear their breathing. Hear their breathing. Imagine them turning to you and saying something affectionate, something casual, something that implies you are already together. Feel the relief, the joy, the naturalness of it. Make it sensory. Make it real. And then loop that scene. Play it over and over. Feel it over and over. Let yourself fall asleep in that feeling. That is the method. That is how you impress the subconscious. That is how you change your state. Do this every night. Not once. Not when you remember. Every night. Make it your practice. Make it your discipline. Because the outer world is persistent. It will argue. It will show you evidence that contradicts your assumption. It will tempt you to react, to doubt, to give up. And if you return to the old state, you will continue to experience the old reality. But if you are faithful, if you persist in the assumption, if you fall asleep every single night in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the outer world will eventually surrender. It has no choice. Consciousness is the only reality. And you are determining your consciousness every night in that state akin to sleep. But what about during the day? What about when you see them? When you hear from them? When you do not hear from them? What you do then? You do not react. That is the key. You do not make their behavior mean anything about you or about the future. You remind yourself they are reflecting the old state. I am assuming a new state. I am not looking to them for confirmation. I am looking inward. I am the operant power. And then you redirect your mind. You return to the feeling. You remember the scene you imagined last night. You live in that, not as fantasy, not as escape, but as the truth of your consciousness, which is the only truth that matters. This is what Neville meant when he said, live in the end. Do not live in the journey. Do not live in the process. Live in the end. Live as if it is already done. Think from that state, not toward it. This does not mean you pretend in the outer world. It means you assume in the inner world. And the inner world is where all creation happens. The outer is just the shadow. And you do not fight with shadows. You change the light. You change your state. And the shadows shift accordingly. Now some of you are thinking, but what if they are with someone else? What if they blocked me? What if they are with someone else? What if they said they never want to see me again? What if it has been months, years with no contact? And I tell you, it does not matter. None of it matters, because none of it is cause. It is all effect. It is all the outpicturing of an old state. And states can change. You can change your state right now. And when you do, when you persist in the new state, the outer must follow. Neville told stories of people manifesting marriages after years of no contact, of reconciliations after the most brutal endings, of love blooming where there seemed to be only indifference or even hostility. And every single time the method was the same. The person stopped reacting to the outer. They stopped making the other person the operant power. They assumed the wish fulfilled. They lived in that state. And the outer conformed. I will tell you what Neville said. He said, "Do not ask me how. Do not ask me when. Do not ask me if it is possible. It is law. If you assume it, if you persist in the assumption, it will come to pass. The how is not your concern. The when is not your concern. Your only concern is the state. Assume the state of the wish fulfilled, and all things will be added unto you." That is the promise, and it is not conditional. It does not depend on whether they currently love you. It does not depend on how bad things look. It depends only on your faithfulness to the assumption. That is all. But here is where most people failed as to the assumption. That is all. They do the technique once, twice, maybe for a week, and then they check. They look at the outer world. They look at that person, and they see no change. Or worse, they see things getting worse, and they panic. They think it is not working. They think it is not applied to them. They think maybe this person is the exception. And so they give up. They return to the old state. They go back to reacting, to hoping. And of course, nothing changes, because they never truly changed their state. They visited the new state. They tried it on, but they did not live in it. They did not persist. Neville said, persistence is the key. You must persist in the assumption until it hardens into fact. And how do you know when it has hardened? When you no longer need to see it, to believe it. When you feel it is done. When you have the inner conviction, the inner knowing, that it is already true in consciousness, which is the only place it ever needed to be true. And when you have that, when you rest in that, the outer has no choice but to reflect it. It might take a day. It might take months. But it will happen. It is law. Now I want to address something important. Some of you are afraid that if you stop reacting to them, if you stop reaching out, if you stop checking, they will forget you. They will move on. You will lose your chance, and I understand that fear. But that fear is itself the state of lack. It is the belief that they are the power, that their forgetting you is even possible if you are assuming you are unforgettable to them. Do you see? You are still making them the god of your reality. You are still giving them the power to determine your outcome. And as long as you do that, you are creating from fear, not from faith. And fear creates more fear, more lack, more distance. But when you truly assume the wish fulfilled, when you live in the state of being loved by them, the question of whether they will forget you does not even arise, because in that state they are already yours. They are already thinking of you. They are already drawn to you, not because you are manipulating them, but because you are manipulating them, but because you have changed your consciousness, and they are part of your consciousness. They are yourself pushed out, and when you change, they change, not as separate beings you are controlling, but as reflections of your own inner state. This is the mystical side of the teaching, and it is the most profound. You are not manifesting a person who is separate from you. You are manifesting your own consciousness. That person, as you experience them, is you. They are your own wonderful human imagination pushed out into the world of form. And when you change your imagination, when you change the story you are telling yourself about them, they change. Not because you have power over them, but because they are not other than you. There is only one consciousness, one I am, and it is wearing all the masks, playing all the parts. When you know this, truly know this, you stop trying to change them, and you simply change your conception of them. And that change in conception is the change in experience. So stop making them the God of your reality. Stop waiting for them to validate you. Stop looking for proof in their behavior. Stop giving them the power to determine your state. You are not their effect. You are the cause. You are the operant power. And the moment you reclaim that, the moment you reclaim that, the moment you reclaim that, the moment you assume what you want to be true, everything begins to shift, not because you are forcing anything, but because you are formally aligned with the law. You are finally creating consciously instead of by default. And that is when miracles happen. That is when the so-called impossible becomes inevitable. Let me take you higher now. Let me show you why this matters beyond the desire for a specific person. Because yes, you can manifest that person. Yes, you can manifest that person. Yes, you can have the relationship you want. But the real gift, the real transformation, is realizing who you are. You are not a human being trying to manifest. You are consciousness itself, individualized, awake and aware. You are the I am, the same I am that spoke to Moses from the burning bush, the same I am that Jesus claimed when he said, "Before Abraham was, I am." You are that, not metaphorically, not symbolically. Literally, you are the creative power of the universe, housed in a human form, having a human experience. And everything, everyone, every circumstance in your life is you, your own consciousness pushed out. When you make someone the God of your reality, you are forgetting this. You are pretending to be small. You are pretending to be powerless. You are playing the role of the victim, the beggar, the one at the mercy of the world. And that is a state. It is not the truth. The truth is you are the creator. You are the author. You are the one imagining it all. And the moment you remember that, the moment you stop bowing to the outer and you return to the inner, you reclaim your divinity, not in some lofty distant sense, but practically, here, now, in your life, in your relationships, in your experience. Neville spoke often about the pearl of great price, the one thing worth seeking. And it is not a person. It is not a manifestation. It is not a manifestation. It is the realization of who you are, the realization that I am is the name of God, and it is your name. When you live from that, you are free. You do not need anyone to complete you. You do not need anything to prove your worth. You're already whole, already complete, already divine. And from that place you can create anything. You can assume anything. You can manifest anyone. Not because you are desperate, but because you are God awake in a human form, creating your reality with every assumption, every feeling, every state you occupy. This is why stopping making them the God of your reality is not just about getting them back or attracting them. It is about waking up. It is about remembering. It is about reclaiming your throne. You are not meant to worship anyone. You are meant to create. You are meant to assume. You are meant to live from the I am and watch the world reflect your inner glory back to you. And when you do that, when you live from that place, you do not chase love. You embody it. You do not seek approval. You give it to yourself. You do not wait for someone to choose you. You choose yourself. And then the world, including that person, has no choice but to honor that choice. Because the world is always honoring your consciousness. Always, without exception. So here is what I want you to take from this episode. You gave them too much power. But you can take it back. Right now. Not by fighting them. Not by convincing them. Not by waiting for them to change. But by changing your state. By assuming the wish fulfilled. By living in the end. By reclaiming yourself as the operant power. You are not at their mercy. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the creator of your experience. And the moment you truly accept that, the moment you live from that, everything changes. Tonight, when you go to bed, do not think about what they did or did not do today. Do not replay the hurt or did not do today. Do not replay the hurt or the silence or the distance. Construct a scene, a simple scene that implies you are loved by them, that implies you are together. Feel it, make it real in your imagination, and fall asleep in that feeling. Do this every night. Do not check for results. Do not look to the outer for confirmation. Just persist in the assumption and let the law do its work. It will. It always does. Because consciousness is the only reality, and you are determining your consciousness every single night in that state akin to sleep. And during the day, when you are tempted to react, when you see something that contradicts your assumption, remind yourself, I am the operant power. They are showing me the old state. I am assuming a new state. I am not looking to them for proof. I am looking inward. I am living in the end. And then return to the feeling. Return to the assumption. Live there. Think from there. Be there. And let the outer catch up. It will. In its own time. In its own way. But it will. You are not a beggar. You are not powerless. You are not at the creative power of the universe. You are not at the mercy of anyone. You are the I. You are consciousness. You are the creative power of the UI. And the moment you stop making anyone the god of your reality and you return to yourself, to your own inner being, to your own imagination, you become unstoppable, not because you are controlling the world, but because you are controlling the world, but because you are creating it, and that is the truth, that is the law, that is the promise. Stop making them the god of your reality. Reclaim yourself as the only operant power in your world, and watch everything change. I tell you, it will. Try it, dare to assume it, and see for yourself that consciousness is the only reality. And you are that consciousness. You are the creator, you are the power, and you always have been.